This is TWiT.
In almost a state-sponsored spy story, we have something that really happened. And I can tease this by quoting our friend Marcus Hutchins' Twitter reaction upon learning of it. Just to remind everyone, Marcus is the well-known security researcher and reformed cybercrime hacker. You know, he actually reformed in his teenage years, but the FBI didn't forgive him for that. And of course, as we know, his future became uncertain when the FBI grabbed him in Las Vegas's Logan Airport as he was departing or preparing to depart from the U.S. for his home in the U.K. following the annual Black Hat and DEF CON conferences. Well, last Thursday, reacting on Twitter to the news of this story, which had just broken, Marcus quite correctly observed, he tweeted, quote, "One of the benefits of cybercrime is criminals don't have to expose themselves to unnecessary risk by conducting business in person. Flying into the U.S. jurisdiction to have malware manually installed on a company's network is absolutely insane," unquote. Okay, so what was all that about? A 27-year-old Russian national by the name of Igor Igorovich Kruchnikov traveled to the U.S. and attempted to subvert and bribe an employee working at Tesla Corporation's massive Nevada-based gigafactory. Igor ultimately agreed to pay the employee $1 million to plant malware inside Tesla's internal network. The good news is the employee reported the offer to his employer, Tesla, and then worked with the FBI to build an airtight case and to set up a sting, which included having him covertly record face-to-face meetings discussing this 27-year-old Russian's proposal. In their complaint, which followed Igor's arrest and arraignment last Tuesday, the prosecutors wrote, "The purpose of the conspiracy was to recruit an employee of a company to surreptitiously transmit malware provided by the co-conspirators into the company's computer system, exfiltrate data from the company's network, and threaten to disclose the data online unless the company paid the co-conspirators ransom demand." The complaint said that the malware would be custom developed to propagate through the company's network. For it to work, the group said it needed the employee to provide information about the employer's network authorizations and network procedures. Kurychikov said the malware would be transmitted either by inserting a USB drive into a company computer or clicking on an email attachment containing malware. Igor explained that the infecting computer would have to run continuously for 6 to 8 hours for the malware to move fully through the network. To distract network personnel, a first stage of the malware would perform a denial of service attack, while a second stage performed the data exfiltration. When the complaint was initially unsealed last Tuesday, the identities of all parties was still confidential, being identified only as Company A and CHS1, which is their abbreviation for Confidential Human Source Number 1, that is the employee. But last Thursday, Elon Musk confirmed that yes, indeed, it was his company that was the target of this whole operation. The charging document, which was filed in federal court in Nevada, detailed an extensive and determined attempt to infect Tesla's network. The defendant, again, 27-year-old Igorovich Krutchkov, allegedly traveled from Russia to Nevada and then met with the unnamed employee on multiple occasions. When Igor's initial $500,000 bid failed to clinch the deal, the defendant doubled the offer to $1 million. According to the complaint, Krutchkov wined and dined and boozed up the employee, and when discussing especially sensitive details, conducted conversations in cars. When FBI agents couldn't conduct physical surveillance in restaurants or bars, the employee recorded them. One meeting occurred on August 7th in a car Krutchkov had rented. Referring to the employee again as CHS1, the prosecutors described that August 7th meeting as follows. They said, during this meeting, which the FBI had consensually recorded, Krutchkov reiterated some of the details of the criminal activity previously proposed to CHS1. Krutchkov described the malware attack as he did before, adding that the first part of the attack, a DDoS, would be successful for the group, in quotes, but the victim company's security officers would think the attack had failed. Krutchkov, and here's some news, again listed prior companies this group had targeted. Krutchkov stated each of these targeted companies had a person working at those companies who installed malware on behalf of the group. To ease CHS1's concerns about getting caught, Krutchkov claimed the oldest project the group had worked on took place 3.5 years ago, and the group's co-optee still worked for the company. So, in other words, this group has been active for 3.5 years, has previously, if we're believing Krutchkov, his assertions to this employee at Tesla, they have multiple times successfully bribed, presumably, and co-opted someone, an insider, getting them to work with them, to conspire, to insert malware into various U.S. companies to pull this off. And so, of course, we can imagine that now that Krutchkov has been nabbed by the FBI, of great interest will be which are these companies and maybe who are the co-optees as well. Anyway, Krutchkov also told the Tesla employee the group had technical staff who would ensure the malware could not be tracked back to the employee. In fact, Krutchkov claimed the group could attribute the attacker to another person at the victim company. Should there be someone in mind the employee wanted to teach a lesson, unquote. During the meeting, CHS1, the Tesla employee, expressed how concerned and stressed he had been over the request. He stated if he were to agree to install the malware, he would need more money. Krutchkov asked how much, and the employee responded, $1 million. Krutchkov was sympathetic to the request and said he understood. Remember, this is a recording that the FBI has and is part of this complaint, that he understood and would have to contact the group before agreeing to the request. Igor confided that the group was paying him $500,000 for his participation in getting this employee to install the malware, and he was willing to give a significant portion of the payment, $300,000 to $450,000, to the employee to entice his involvement. The employee said he would need money up front to ensure that Igor would not have him install the software and then not pay him. Again, Igor asked how much. And the Tesla employee responded, $50,000. Igor said this was an acceptable amount and a reasonable request, but he would have to work on this because he only had $10,000 with him due to U.S. customs restrictions on the amount of money he could bring into the country. Igor also questioned what would prevent Tesla employee from taking the upfront money and then not following through on installing malware. The employee stated that he was sure Igor or the group would figure a way to apply leverage against the employee to ensure that he held up his end of the arrangement. They discussed the timing of the next meeting, and Igor said he would return to Reno on or around August 17th of 2020. So, yikes. This would have been a classic inside job. And it does serve as a reminder that just as money motivates the bad guys, it's also, as we know, a time-honored motivator used to turn someone, anyone. And as I said, it's also a little bit sobering that if we believe what Igor was saying, this doesn't look like the first time this group has done this, and maybe the FBI will be able to get some information about other companies this has happened to. And you can imagine if the FBI approached those companies, suddenly the company is wondering, okay, who was the co-conspirator in this? So very, very interesting problem. Leo, let's take our second break.
Okay. I mean, it's just industrial espionage. I'm sure it happens all the time, really. It's not
sadly
political, it's industrial. There's technologies that one company or country wants, and we have right now.